Welcome in, everybody. This is Greg Ducharme Golf, and I am Greg Ducharme. And today's episode is U.S. Open winning trends. Big week in the game of golf, obviously. The U.S. Open taking place this year at Shinnecock Hills, which last took place in 2018 when Brooks Koepka won. So one of the things that I always do for major championships is I look for the trends that all of the recent winners have in common, and we try to figure out who in this current field meet all those trends. So in today's episode, we're going to go through, there are 7 trends that the last 7 U.S. Open winners all have in common. And then, well, you'll see why, but I also have 4 additional trends that the last 3 winners at Shinnecock Hills all have in common. And I find this very interesting. So the way we go through this, we start with one trend, and we're going to list all the players that meet that category. And then through the remaining trends, we're going to eliminate players who fail to reach them. I've been doing this for years on Twitter. If you're interested in giving me a follow there, I'm at the real GFD. But I wanted to start doing it here on this channel because I thought there could be some interesting, appealing visual ways that we could portray this information. Couple things that you need to keep in mind. First and foremost, this is a fun exercise. It is not designed to predict the winner. It would be great if it did, and it will give you an idea of some players who have a really good chance. It'll give you an idea of some players who statistically fit the needs and the requirements that a U.S. Open demands. But it does not always pick the winner. Last year in the U.S. Open trends, these are essentially the same trends from last year. Last year did not pick J.J. Spaun. In the first category, J.J. Spaun missed out on getting in by about 0.2 of a stroke in strokes gained total. He checked every other box. So the trends are very strong, but there is a little leeway in there. So if you want to do some of your own research, I highly recommend it. But don't come at me if one of these guys doesn't win or somebody out of the blue happens to win, because that's why we play the game. This is a fun exercise. I find it interesting, and it could be helpful in some of your research as well. Hey, if you like what you see here on Greg Ducharme Golf, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment on who you think is going to win the U.S. Open. Or if you have any questions about this year's U.S. Open, leave them in the comments, and I'll get to all of them. All right, so let's get this started. The first trend, in strokes gained total, the last 7 winners have all gained at least 0.987 strokes for the year. Just to give you an idea, that is the top 16 players in strokes gained total on the PGA Tour. Last year, this was just a shade over 1, and that's why J.J. Spaun fell out. J.J. Spaun entered the U.S. Open gaining 0.987 strokes total last year. So these are all the players on the PGA Tour that meet that category. It's Scottie Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Ludwig Åberg, Jake Knapp, Siwoo Kim, Cam Young, Matt Fitzpatrick, Tommy Fleetwood, Xander Schauffele, Chris Gotterup, Nikolai Højgaard, Minwoo Lee, Colin Morikawa, Russell Henley, Patrick Cantlay, and Adam Scott. On other tours, LIV and also the DP World Tour, you have Jon Rahm, Patrick Reed, Jaden Shaper, Alex Fitzpatrick, David Puig, and Bryson DeChambeau. Now, just keep in mind with those other tours, it's obviously in strokes gained, you're measuring a kind of a different category. I don't weigh them as heavy, but for the sake of fairness and the fact that Bryson and Rahm have won 3 of the last 5 U.S. Opens, I want to include them. Next, the next category is strokes gained tee to green. This is a measure of your performance off the tee, approaching the green, and around the green combined. It's essentially everything but putting. So because it incorporates 3 critical areas in the game, it's a very good predictor of success on the PGA Tour, success in a given event. This is a major statistic, very important to rank highly in. So all of the last 7 winners of the U.S. Open have gained at least 0.908 strokes tee to green in the year of their win. So for this year, it's 2026. So all the players that Meet that category are Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Ludwig Oberg, Siwoo Kim, Cam Young, Matt Fitzpatrick, Tommy Fleetwood, Xander Schauffele, Nikolai Højgaard, Minwoo Lee, Colin Morikawa, Patrick Cantlay, Adam Scott, Jon Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, Patrick Reed, Jaden Shaper, and Alex Fitzpatrick. So we lost Jake Knapp, we lost David Puig, we lost Chris Gotterup, and we lost Russell Henley from our original list. Now, the next trend is all of the recent U.S. Open winners, the last 7 U.S. Open winners, have all finished tied 8th or better in at least one of their last 5 starts. Okay, this is Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Ludwig Oberg, Siwoo Kim, Cameron Young, Matt Fitzpatrick, Tommy Fleetwood, Xander Schauffele, Nikolai Højgaard, Colin Morikawa, Patrick Cantlay, Adam Scott, Jon Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, Patrick Reed, and Alex Fitzpatrick. So we lose there Jaden Shaper and Minwoo Lee. They do not have a top 8 finish in their last 5 starts. Next. All right, so those are kind of overarching trends, overarching performance trends, kind of the big stuff. This is where you're not going to see a lot of information on this, but I find these kind of statistics to be very telling. And there are trends in all 4 majors that are along these lines. Okay, so this is, again, very unique, but very important. So each of the last 7 winners had at least one event in their last 5 starts where they gained at least 2.482 strokes off the tee. Okay, 2.482 strokes in at least one of their last 5 starts. This is a signal that they at least have a ceiling. They have an ability to drive the ball really well should they tap into it. These players are, it's almost the same list as our previous list. The only player we lose is Colin Morikawa. Colin Morikawa does not have a start in his last 5 where he's gained over 2.482 strokes off the tee. So we lose him. Now, this is where I'm fascinated because the next one, we don't lose anybody. This is on approach. So strokes gained approach. The last 7 winners all gained at least 1.332 strokes approaching the green in at least one of their last 5 starts. This is exactly the same list. All the players I just mentioned have done that again. So we just carry it over. We don't lose anybody. This never happens. Very surprising to me. Next, the last 7 winners of the U.S. Open have gained at least 1.614 strokes around the green in at least one of their last 5 events. So they have an ability to get up and down. They have a strong short game, at least at times. And again, we don't lose anybody. It's the exact same list again. I've been doing this for years, and I have never seen this happen. When we get to this area of the trends, we are always bleeding people out. And by this point, I would expect to have 5 or 6 guys left, and we have like 15. I've never seen this before, so it's incredible to me. The next one. Last year, this was the last trend. It was the last one, and it left us with 4 players, and I kind of stretched it to include some live guys who didn't necessarily fit the mold, but I allowed them in. I don't trust the live strokes gained. I just think it's a totally different field that you're playing against. So I don't like to include them, but Rahm and Bryson are legitimate contenders, so I felt like they needed to be included. And last year it was Scotty and Rory and Neiman and Rahm who ended up being the final 4 after this last category, which is the last 7 winners have all gained at least 1.564 strokes putting in one of their last 5 events. So they have an ability to putt really well at times. This time we lose some. We lose Patrick Reed, we lose Alex Fitzpatrick, and we lose Nikolai Højgaard. Still shocking to me. We only lost 3 guys. So we're left with Scheffler, McIlroy, Oberg, Siwoo Kim, Cam Young, Matt Fitzpatrick, Tommy Fleetwood, Xander Schauffele, Patrick Cantlay, Adam Scott, Jon Rahm, and Bryson DeChambeau. I'm looking at this saying, all right, this is way too many guys. The piece doesn't work with this many guys in the mix. That being said, I decided to get a little creative. So now I looked at the last 4 winners at Shinnecock Hills, which is Brooks Koepka in 2018, Retief Goosen in 2004, Corey Pavin in 1995, and Raymond Floyd in 1986. I looked at a couple of categories for all of them. Brooks Koepka in 2018, entering that U.S. Open, had 1 major. He had 6 major top 10s, 2 U.S. Open top 10s, 2 tour wins. He was 9th in the world. So going through these remaining trends are you have to have at least 6 major top 10s, at least 1 top 10 in a U.S. Open before, at least 2 wins on the PGA Tour, and you got to be, well, we'll get to the official World Golf Rankings ones a little bit later, and I'll explain why. No, winning a major is not a priority because Corey Pavin entered the U.S. Open without a win in a major. But he did have 8 top 10s in major championships before, and he had 2 previous U.S. Open top 10s. He also had 12 wins on the PGA Tour before winning here in 1995. So of these players, who has 6 major top 10s? Scottie Scheffler has 17. Rory McIlroy has 35. Cameron Young has 7. Matt Fitzpatrick has 6. Tommy Fleetwood has 8. Xander Schauffele has 19. Adam Scott has 20. John Rahm and Bryson DeChambeau also have 6. So we lose Ludwig Oberg, Siwoo Kim, and Patrick Cantlay from our previous rendition. Carrying on. U.S. Open top 10s, you only have to have 1. Kind of expect all these guys to have 1, and it's it is true. They all have 1 top 10 in the U.S. Open. So that's, again, the same list. Same exact list carries on. Now, PGA Tour wins. Here, we lose 1 guy. You got to have at least 2 PGA Tour wins. The only guy we lose is Tommy Fleetwood. He did shoot 63 last time the U.S. Open was played at Shinnecock Hills, but he doesn't meet this criteria. So, unfortunately, we say goodbye to Tommy Fleetwood. Now, the last piece of this is the official World Golf Rankings. There's 2 ways you could look at this. The last 4 winners at Shinnecock Hills were all about 25th or better entering their win. And why do I say about? Raymond Floyd won the U.S. Open in 1986, and the official World Golf Rankings had just started that year. So they didn't have a week-by-week stand-in the way they do now. So looking at it, he was 25th in May of the year of the U.S. Open, and he was like 19th in July after the U.S. Open had taken place. So it's a little hard to say exactly where Raymond Floyd was, but he was somewhere around 25th. Now, if you go back and look at U.S. Open winners, the last 7, like we've been looking at today for all of these, again, we've been going back to the 2019 U.S. Open and everybody in between. They've all been inside the top 30. They've all been 38th or better. Bryson in 2024 was the highest ranked U.S. Open winner. He was 38th. Obviously, you have the live component in there, which throws that off a little bit. So, but the good news is it really only has an effect on 1 player. So Scottie Scheffler qualifies as number 1 in the world. Rory McIlroy, number 2 in the world. That qualifies. Cam Young, number 3 in the world. Matt Fitzpatrick, number 4 in the world. Xander Schauffele, number 12 in the world. John Rahm, number 8 in the world. Bryson DeChambeau is number 30. So if you're looking just at Shinnecock Hills, Bryson would be out. If you're looking at the U.S. Open as a whole, Bryson would still fit the category. So I'll let you decide. But we definitely lose Adam Scott, who's number 60 in the world. And this was this is based on information before the Canadian Open finished. So unfortunately, we lose Adam Scott. But it leaves us with a pretty small list. And it is Scottie Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Cameron Young, Matt Fitzpatrick, Xander Schauffele, John Rahm, and I'll say Bryson DeChambeau as well. So we have 7 players who meet all the trends of the last 7 U.S. Opens and the trends of the last 4 winners here at Shinnecock Hills. Just 7 guys. Now, before you come at me talking about, oh, of course it's the top 5 players in the world, it's often not the case. In fact, Matt Fitzpatrick was the winner this year for the Masters, and he had won the Valspar, but he hadn't won anything else. Now he has 3 wins on tour, including the RBC Heritage, which he won the week after the Masters. And he also won the Zurich with his brother. So things have changed since for Matt Fitzpatrick. Last year, Shane Lowry was the winner for the Masters as well, and he was, well outside that mark, top 5 player in the world. He was well outside of that. Like I said, Joaquin Niemann got into the U.S. Open trends piece last year. There have been a number of players who have kind of been surprises over the years to me. We typically don't see the top 4 players in the world getting through all of these trends. I've never seen it before. So this is, in a way, the results of this are obvious. In a way, they're surprising. But they're not this is not opinion based. Okay, I do the research on the players who have won recently, and I figure out what they all have in common. Every one. Okay, you'll notice there was never one time when I said 6 out of the last 7 U.S. Open winners have achieved this. I don't do that. I want it to be a clean swat. Everybody who has won the U.S. Open has done this. It makes it more challenging. It also narrows it down. Typically, it narrows it down very quickly. And I often get down to 1 or 2 winners. This year at the Masters, it was Rory and Matt Fitzpatrick, like I said. And I kind of made one up to make Matt Fitzpatrick the winner. Guess that was my mistake because Rory McIlroy won. But it's very rare that you have the top 4 players in the world in this category. So if I had to pick one, I just want to highlight some of these things that I find to be pretty interesting. If I had to choose one guy out of this whole mix, and I'm fascinated by this, the numbers here. So I mentioned Brooks Koepka entering the 2018 U.S. Open had 1 major, which was a U.S. Open, the 2017 U.S. Open, and 6 top 10s in majors. Retief Goosen, who won at Shinnecock in 2004, had 1 major, the 2001 U.S. Open, and 6 top 10s in majors. Matt Fitzpatrick has 1 U.S. Open victory in 2022. It's his only major. And 6 top 10s in majors. That's fascinating to me. In U.S. Opens, 2 U.S. Open top 10s for Brooks Koepka before his win at Shinnecock. 1 U.S. Open top 10 for Retief Goosen before his win at Shinnecock Hills. Matt Fitzpatrick has 1 as well. His only top 10 in the U.S. Open is his win at Brookline. Again, very interesting. And when it comes to PGA Tour wins, 2 for Brooks Koepka before his win at Shinnecock, 3 for Retief Goosen before his win at Shinnecock in 2004, and it's 5 for Brooks Koepka. You want to get a little creative? 2 plus 3. Brooks Koepka's 2 tour wins plus Retief Goosen's 3 tour wins equals 5. Matt Fitzpatrick has 5 tour wins. Very interesting. Official World Golf Ranking, we get a little separation. Maybe Fitzy's just too good. But Brooks Koepka was 9th entering his win at Shinnecock Hills, and Retief Goosen was 11th entering his win at Shinnecock Hills. Matt Fitzpatrick is number 4 in the world. Fascinating stuff. So anyway, that's our trends. Again, just 7 guys that can win the U.S. Open this year at Shinnecock Hills. Scottie Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Cameron Young, Matt Fitzpatrick, who's the guy that I have circled, Xander Schauffele, Jon Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau. It should be one of those 7, and if it is, it's going to be a thrilling week at Shinnecock Hills. Before we say goodbye, I'll have some more information coming out on Shinnecock Hills right here on this channel. So if you like what you see, if you're interested in this kind of research, give me a subscribe right here. You can also follow me on social media. I'm at Greg Ducharme Golf on Instagram and The Real GFD on Twitter. I'm much more active on Twitter, so I recommend that. Again, at The Real GFD. But subscribe here. I'm going to be putting a lot of that stuff out in video form like this. And like I said, this week I'll have some of my official picks. Once I go through the field, I'll have some information on the golf course at Shinnecock Hills as well. So make sure you share, subscribe, tell your friends about it, and thank you for joining me on this U.S. Open Trends edition for 2026 at Shinnecock Hills. I'm Greg Ducharme. Thanks so much for watching. We'll talk to you next time.